Garage can be a cutthroat place, but at the same time, it can be real compassionate. There's, one of the things that, I'm proud of is that garage does a lot to try to help, and everybody has a different cause, and to them, that's the most important cause, and everybody helps them with that cause. But there's not 3 or 4 in the garage doing it. There's a bunch, and so you end up doing a lot of things for a lot of people, and a lot of people end up doing things for you, and it just makes it work. There's a lot of worthwhile causes out there, and a lot of people need help. And there's our sponsors and our drivers and our car owners and their teams. I think they do a really good job of trying to help.
Along that lines, you're on the other side of it. You're kind of helping these young drivers out today too, acting like a teacher, I guess.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, if obviously when somebody wants to, come and ask me, it's cool to talk to people. They can teach me a lot too. This is what they do all the time, and you can't think you're just gonna march in here and beat everybody. This is what they do, and they're good at it. And so, it's one of the reasons I wanted to do it, because I hadn't run a late model in over 20 years, and I wanted to race with these guys because it's what I grew up doing. I know how hard I worked, and the people around me worked, and that's how hard they're working. And in no means is my, do I think we're going to come here just because I'm a cup driver, we're going to come here and win the race. We're going to have to work hard to do it. And it means something to win it because you're racing against really, really, really good race car drivers.
Yeah, I heard you and Frank Denny earlier was giving the drivers tips about where to go on the track, stuff like that. Is part of that self-preservation, or?
No, not really. I mean, it's what people did for me. I mean, I can remember coming here for the first time and in a late model car. First time I was ever here, I was in a late model car, and it was actually at it was a fairgrounds track, and came here and led a lot of the race and had a big wreck on the front straightaway with like 10 to go and got in it and didn't win. And but people would help you. I mean, you didn't used to have teammates. And that's how this is down here. It used to be there were no teammates. You had to your competitors. You had to go to your competitors and ask for help, and they'd help you. And so that's how it's always been. Really, it's changed a little bit at the upper levels, because when you do have teammates, you work with them. You know what I mean? Young drivers work with their teammates, but people always reached out and helped me.
What do you remember about being a young, up-and-coming driver?
I didn't have as much fun as I should have had. I mean, really. I've always been, real serious about this, and I didn't enjoy it as much. Didn't appreciate that. I didn't appreciate the opportunity as much as my desire made it so when we didn't run well, it wasn't fun for me.
What do you remember about when you were in that stage and you got a chance to race against guys that you really looked up to?
I'll never forget having a chance to race against Tommy Ellis and Jack Ingram and those guys. I mean, it was like, I honestly never had a desire to be a cup driver. I wanted to race against Jack Ingram. I wanted to race against Tommy Ellis. I wanted to race against Sonny Hutchins. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. And it was cool. I mean, I was a little bit in awe, and I worked real hard not to piss anybody off for a little while. And then, because, you don't want to make them mad, because you grew up watching them. Then there came a time where it's like, okay, now if you make them mad, it's okay. But, for a while, it was, kind of tiptoe around them, because you didn't want to make a person mad that you looked up to.
Do you see a lot of potential in some of the other guys, the kind of younger guys that they can kind of follow in the steps with you and Denny?
Well, that's the thing. Like, our sport is such that there's a lot of young drivers that have a lot of talent that don't have an opportunity to drive due to dollars and opportunity. Here today helping me is Matt McCall. Promising young driver that had a few shots with Robert Gates Racing, but it didn't work out. Money dried up. Matt Carter, guys done real well in late models, never got a break, you know, hadn't got a break yet. Brandon McReynolds, you know, run really well, won some races, hadn't been able to get a break, watching a hell of a lot more races than he's actually doing. So, you know, there's a lot of people around me that I look at and I'm like, you know, I've been really blessed. And the bad thing is somebody's probably going to kill me between now and then because I got 3 people that want to drive it. But you know, that's a good perspective for me, you know, because I know that every one of them wants to be behind the wheel of that car, but they're all here working on my car, you know, to make us go as fast as we can because they have a passion for racing. And there's stories like that all over the country. You know, drivers that are good enough but don't have hadn't had a chance.
Is it weird to do it kind of on a lark, just you said, because you hadn't done it in 20 years when there's...
Well, I don't do anything on a lark. This was well thought out. This plan for...
I mean, just for fun, like you said before.
There's a method to my madness, even though it doesn't always look like it. My son is, you know, he's going to eventually be behind the wheel of one of these cars, and I wanted to get back into it to understand what he's going to be doing. And I got a little detached from the technical side of things on the races, and I just... It's easy for me to come here today, and it's easy for me to go to Motor Mile last week and work on the car and talk about what we're doing, and you know, it helps. It's kind of helping me in my recommitment of being involved in the car. It's kind of helping me with that too, even though these cars are nothing like a Cup car, still race car. And you know, vehicle dynamics, don't know if it's on $1 million car or a $50,000 car. It's still vehicle dynamics, and so you know, it helps me wake my mind up a little bit.
I mean, yeah, I've seen you grow up in South Boston, you raced down there, yeah, up here in Richmond, in Virginia. What does that mean to you to come home like this?
It's fun. Like I said, I mean, the first big late model race I ever ran was here, and it was on the fairgrounds. We came here to test a brand new car, and we blew an engine going down the back straightaway. Jay Hedgestock was driving it because I didn't have any experience, and my dad said, "Do you mind driving it to see what?" Because my son didn't know what the hell he's talking about, so why don't you drive and see what happens? And it blew an engine and brand new car, total lost it, you know what I mean? And it was like, oh. So, you know, lots happened to me here. I mean, you know, it's been a track that, you know, good and bad things have happened to me here. Came here Rookie of the Year candidate and got kicked out of the race because we had holes drilled in roll bars, you know what I mean? There's been a lot that's happened to me here, and it's fun to come back at this level. I don't feel like I'm stepping back, you know what I mean? I feel like I'm just doing something that I did when I started. But it doesn't, you know, like when I rolled in the gate, I didn't think, well, we're just here racing against a bunch of late model guys. I was like racing a bunch of late model guys, you know, excited about it. And you know, it's just fun. And I think one thing too is it is, no matter what anybody says, it is very high pressure in that garage. I mean, that garage is, a lot of people have been running out of that garage because they weren't tough enough. And it isn't as relaxed, you know, as the Nationwide garage is. And the Nationwide garage is relaxed as that garage. And so it's fun to come here. It's my own car. You know, it's the first car I've owned in a long time. We built it. We'll sink or sail our way. You know, it's fun. It's good.
How important do you think it is, Jeff, for you guys to be visible in this kind of generosity with your time and with the money you raise and giving it like Denny to VCU and just all this Victory Junction? How much do you think that allows people to relate with you guys more than they would otherwise?
Listen, I think people expect, you know, athletes and celebrities, whatever you want to call them, to do more. And we should do more. We have the opportunity to influence a lot of people and to have a conversation and get something on people's minds. And we need to take advantage of that. I think it's important. I think it's important that every sport and every business gives back to the community. and our community I think does a really good job. But I think you have to be careful. I think you have to be careful not. You want the public to know you're doing stuff because the public can help you do it. But you don't do it. You shouldn't do it so the public knows about it. Does that make sense?
So you're not doing it for publicity and the pat on the back. You're doing it for the more impact.
If you go, you kind of have to get the publicity in some cases to help. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to be the lead guy to really make an impact. But you have to be careful not to let people around you convince you that you need to look like a good guy. You need to do it because you need to find something that speaks to you. And if you don't find something that speaks to you, you probably should just try to help other people until you do find something that speaks to you. And that's what's happened to me, is that I helped a lot of people, but I never really had a cause. And then the Duke Children's thing came up, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then recently the Veterans Affairs issues have come up, and that spoke to me. And there's things I've done very public because it's raised awareness, and there's things I've done that nobody will ever know about that I don't want anybody to know about because they don't need to know about it. And because some things are very one-on-one, and you go try to help somebody, there's no benefit in everybody knowing about it. So why make it more complicated than it needs to be? One of the coolest experiences I ever had was Bobby Labonte and I and Jimmy Makar went to New York City not many days after 9/11. No media, nothing. And just went up there and visited fire stations and police stations. And you got to see so much more than you would have seen had there been a television camera with you. And that taught me a lesson that, don't have a camera with you all the time. Because it wouldn't have done anybody any good for us to have a camera, and we would have missed out on a lot. Because people show you real emotion when they can just be themselves. And when they bring a camera around, people aren't themselves. It's hard to be yourself.
Are you constantly being asked to take up causes?
Well, everybody's cause is the most important to them. So to them, it's everything. And so, yeah, people are constantly asking you for time and money and energy, as they should. I do think you have to say no. You say no a lot more than you say yes. Because if you say yes to everything, your involvement really isn't worth anything. So it's a fine line. But yeah, everybody wants you to be involved in what they believe is the most important issue.
How hard is it making that decision?
You just gotta, there's an older lady in South Boston one time, she used the phrase, it has to speak to you, and I've used it ever since. And that's just how it is. It has to speak to you. And if it doesn't speak to you, you just gotta politely say no, because you don't want to diminish the things that you can't impact everything. You can't do it effectively. You have to focus. You have to focus your energy. That is not to say you can't go and spend an hour for somebody signing autographs and raise money for something that requires nothing but your time. No big deal. But to really get involved in something, you can't overstep. I had a good job.
Thanks a lot.
See y'all next week.